Everyone was looking at the speed blown away by the lap times, but hardly anyone noticed what was really happening underneath. McLaren wasn't just fast, they were playing a completely different game. And now, the rest of the grid, including the FIA, is left scratching their heads, trying to understand how it all slipped past them. For several months, teams, journalists, and even paddock cameras were kept at a distance specifically from the front end of the McLaren car. Something was off, but no one could quite put their finger on it. Covered wheels, limited angles, and a calm silence from the team all pointed to one thing: they were hiding something. And now, we finally know what. People thought it was a small trick related to brake cooling, but in reality, it's something much bigger. McLaren has built one of the most advanced front suspension setups ever seen under the current Formula One rules. And now that it's visible, it's becoming clearer how they're using it to stay ahead. So, is this the real key to their 2025 performance, or just one layer of a more complex advantage? Before we get into the specifics, let's go back to where the suspicions began. Teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes started noticing strange signs very early in the season. In Bahrain, McLaren's tires held up far better than anyone expected. By the time they reached Australia, it was clear their car stayed within the tire's ideal temperature range longer than anyone else. Then came Miami, and the data didn't lie. Thermal imaging showed a level of control that even Red Bull, famous for their tire mastery, couldn't explain. They noticed moisture forming around McLaren's rear wheels. They saw cooler brake ducts. They saw a car that didn't lose performance. Even when track temperatures were hitting 50 degrees Celsius, Red Bull filed protests twice. The FIA investigated in Miami and later in the season, but nothing illegal turned up. No active cooling systems, no fluid movement, no hidden mechanisms, just clever design, smart airflow, and a clear understanding of how to use every legal trick in the book. Now we come to the moment everything started making sense. Photographs and technical breakdowns finally revealed what McLaren had been carefully hiding. What looked like ordinary parts turned out to be anything but. The front suspension wasn't just designed for performance. It was built to push the limits of what's allowed. The layout is aggressive in a way that's rarely seen. Engineers developed a multi-link system, completely rethinking the position of the top wishbone and stretching the lower arms in a way that blends smoothly with the brake ducts. It's the kind of design that tells you something major is going on, something others haven't figured out yet. The outcome, a rock-solid aerodynamic base. This setup keeps the car stable while braking and accelerating, which helps with airflow across the floor. That, in turn, creates more reliable downforce and more grip lap after lap, no matter the conditions. This is where it all connects. What looked like a temperature management trick wasn't really about cooling the tires at all. Instead, McLaren's car simply doesn't overheat them. That's not just a benefit, it's an entirely different philosophy. Their edge isn't something you add later. It's something that's built right into the structure of the car. To see how far ahead they really are, we need to focus on one idea: platform stability. Since the 2022 regulation changes that brought ground effect cars back, every team has been chasing one main goal: keeping the car flat and planted, so the floor can generate as much downforce as possible. If the car bounces, tilts, or shifts too much, airflow is ruined. That's what made porpoising such a problem in the early part of the new era. Red Bull was the first to crack that code with the RB18. Adrian Newey's quiet obsession with front-end geometry gave them the first real lead in this battle. But, in 2025, McLaren has taken that same idea and pushed it even further. Their front suspension is the boldest version of anti-dive technology currently seen on the grid. At first glance, McLaren's front suspension looks unusual, maybe even overdone. But for a long time, no one had a clear view of it. Only now, after detailed images and technical breakdowns have surfaced, can we finally see the full picture. What they've put together is a unique multi-link system with a carefully positioned top arm and a lengthened forward leg on the lower side. So why does this matter? Because the entire layout is built for precision control. One of the standout features is how this suspension setup allows for a virtual steering axis and effect that changes how the front wheels behave when the car is under load. No moving parts, no electronics. It's purely mechanical design doing the work. It works similarly to an old system Mercedes used years ago to change how the front tires pointed during high-speed sections. Except McLaren's version doesn't rely on any movable hardware. Everything is locked into place through geometry. The effect is powerful. The front wheels can slightly adjust their angle during straight-line driving to reduce rolling resistance and help keep tire temperatures under control. Then, when the car enters a corner, the alignment shifts again to give more responsive steering. This means better grip and sharper handling, all without using a single active component. It's one of the cleanest legal ways to manage both performance and tire health, and it's working. Season-long data shows that McLaren consistently ranks at the top in sector 3 times the parts of circuits where low-speed grip and stability make the biggest difference. Whether it's hot or cool outside, their car behaves predictably, while others see their performance vary depending on the weather. McLaren remains constant. Lando Norris even mentioned that the front end feels numb at times. Not because something's wrong, but because it's so steady that he doesn't get the usual feedback through the steering wheel. That led to a small change in the car's geometry for the Canadian Grand Prix, not to make it quicker, but to improve how the car feels to the driver. Oscar Piastri, on the other hand, chose to stick with the original setup. Already confident in the behavior of the car, Andrea Stella, McLaren's team principal, later explained the reasoning behind these changes. It wasn't about chasing more speed, it was all about helping the drivers connect better with the car. The performance was already there. What they were adjusting was the feedback. That's how confident McLaren is in the foundation of their car. It's not just fast, it's also responsive to what the drivers need. This is what puts McLaren in a league of its own right now. While Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes are still trying to solve basic problems like how to keep tire temperatures, even and balance the car throughout a race, McLaren has already moved to the next stage. They're fine-tuning how the car feels without needing to chase performance gains every weekend. That stability doesn't just help with comfort, it gives a serious edge in real racing conditions. Because the suspension keeps the car from shifting too much under braking or acceleration, the airflow underneath remains steady. That's a big deal. If the floor can keep working without interruption, the car keeps its grip. If the tires don't overheat or slide around, they last longer even when pushed hard over multiple laps. This level of control means McLaren can run a consistent pace, whether it's early in a stint or late in a race. While other teams see their performance drop as the tires degrade, McLaren keeps hitting the same lap times. Their advantage isn't in raw speed, it's in the fact that they don't lose it. And that's what's caught everyone's attention. Right now, no one else on the grid has a setup that comes close to matching this. Ferrari is still testing new parts for front-to-rear balance. Red Bull has gone back to the drawing board to rethink their cooling strategy. Mercedes has made progress, but their rear suspension changes are still being fine-tuned. Meanwhile, McLaren's package works everywhere. Whether it's a hot race day, a twisty low-speed circuit, or a long high-speed section, the behavior of the car stays the same. That kind of consistency is rare in Formula One, and it's why McLaren now finds itself in a commanding position. What we're witnessing is the kind of advantage that doesn't come from one big upgrade or a lucky breakthrough. McLaren's entire approach, suspension design, tire strategy, aerodynamic stability, has been built with purpose. Every small detail is working toward the same goal: reliable speed. That's why other teams are watching closely. Ferrari has been flooding their car with updates both at the front and rear, trying to make it easier to control across a race. Mercedes recently brought back a version of their anti-lift rear suspension, something they had briefly abandoned. They're now realizing they can't afford to ignore those concepts anymore. And Red Bull, the dominant force of the past few seasons, is suddenly under pressure. Their ability to manage heat and tire performance, once untouchable, is no longer giving them the edge. Their early season updates didn't close the gap. Rumors suggest they've already turned to simulations, testing alternative airflow solutions and passive cooling compounds, but changes like that don't produce instant results. The kind of integration McLaren has achieved isn't something that can be bolted on during a season. It takes months of planning, testing, and aligning different parts of the car philosophy. By the time others figure it out, the current season may already be out of reach. That's also why the FIA has stepped in. Without announcing it loudly, the rules for 2026 have already been tweaked. The governing body quietly added language to prevent any system that heats or cools brakes, hubs, or wheels in specific ways. Another rule targets suspension fairings, making sure they can't direct internal airflow. It's clear what these changes are meant to address, even if no team is being named directly. McLaren isn't being penalized. There's no investigation, no disqualification, but the message from the FIA is clear. Don't expect this advantage to last forever. Others will catch up. The rules will tighten. But right now, McLaren has a golden window. They've got the most stable car. They've got two young, fast drivers who are pushing without creating problems. And they've got the technical edge, in a sport where even a tenth of a second matters. Even rival drivers are taking notice. George Russell admitted it openly. Most teams still struggle to keep the front tires in the right temperature range without sacrificing speed. McLaren, they're not just doing it well, they're doing it on every compound, at every track, in every condition. So, looking at the rest of 2025, one thing is clear: the championship is wide open now. Red Bull's grip on the title isn't safe anymore. Ferrari and Mercedes will need more than updates. They'll need a breakthrough, because McLaren isn't just fast anymore. They're efficient, repeatable, hard to shake off, and, most importantly, they've made their strengths visible for all to see. And yet, even with the rest of the paddock watching, no one's been able to stop them. The question now is simple: can anyone catch up before the next rulebook resets the playing field?